Is it now that cool to just come out and just throw shots at Pac?
I would respect Tupac's Hit 'Em Up if his music tracking was better.
I don't know if you guys went to the toilet yet, but the toilet plays Pac.
I did pee and I heard Pac. I got scared.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
DIY.
DIYers, I don't know who popularized it. I don't know who was the first one to do it, but it seems like every once in a while, every few years, someone appears to disrespect the legacy, the music of Tupac. Why they choose him as the target, I don't really know, but I think I have a few theories. Who's doing it? Well, it's been young rappers that we're going to talk about, and as of recent, it has been legendary name Questlove. In addition to that, we definitely got to talk about Drake's decision to use Tupac's voice with the assistance of AI for the tailor-made freestyle. But even deeper than that, I put a message here on Twitter, and the responses were really, really interesting because I grew up and I knew Tupac from a distance, right? When I was younger, I wasn't really listening to all this music in the same way that I did when I got older and I became an adult and I became closer to the age that he passed away. So much of the music and the things he was talking about made so much more sense. But I knew him as a revolutionary. I knew him as someone who was an advocate for the youth, for creative expression. I knew him to be just as much on the flip side. He was a Gemini, and he was very aggressive in his tactics when it was wartime. He wasn't necessarily, I guess, in the traditional sense, what people consider a lyricist, but many of us saw him as a poet. Matter of fact, he has books of poems. A Rose That Grew from the Concrete is probably one that he's most known for in his poetry writing. But what I can tell you about the impact that a Tupac had on me is that he made me want to read so many different books so that I could get a better understanding of how could someone at his age talk with so much confidence and so much knowledge. Well, obviously I've been reacting a lot to the back and forth between Kendrick and Drake, and I don't know what thought came to my mind, but I thought about the first time I heard this Drake bar that at the time I didn't take it as disrespect, but now because of recent events, I'm starting to look at it from a different point of view. Now, that line is from a song called Fear, a song that really helped to put Drake's sound on the map. The line goes, now obviously it's not on this page, but before this line he says, don't get this the wrong way, but I never cried when Pac died, but I probably will when Hove does. I go on to say in his tweet, this Drake bar never sat well with me as a Pac fan. I remember being in middle school. I was at Curtis Middle School, where I get half of my name from, and my classmates were crying when the news was announced over the PA. I was in band class. I remember seeing these kids the whole day, faces slumped. I saw teachers on the campus that were in tears, that were down because of such a monumental figure. And mind you, I was on the West Coast. I was in Carson, California. So obviously there exists a bit more personal connection to a Tupac. But then I started saying to myself, as much as Drake is allowed, like any other human being, to say, look, the way I interpret that line at first was he didn't grow up on Tupac. He didn't connect with Tupac in quite the same way he grew up and connected with the Jay-Z. So in the event that Jay-Z passes away, he will find himself crying because of that said connection. I think the only question I had at that point in time, being a diehard Pac fan, was why does Pac name have to be brought up as the contrasting name? Like, I guess the question is, what is the point that's trying to be proven by using Tupac? Now, I have some other stories here that may help answer that question, because he's not the only one along the way that have used Tupac's name for semi-shock value, for culture shock value, for clicks, views, whatever the case may be. I then go on to say, then years later, we're presented with tailor-made freestyle where Drake mimics Tupac's voice with the assistance of AI. Now, you guys know from those videos, that shit had me pissed off. I'm sure nowhere near the family and the estate who, threatened to sue Drake for doing that. But it led me to the question, why do they disrespect Tupac so much?
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
Why Tupac? There's plenty of rappers that have passed away. I feel like I don't hear nearly that amount of disrespect for an Eazy-E, and I wouldn't want it to go in anybody else's direction necessarily because they deserved it, but I just wonder why the obsession with a Tupac. Now, some of you may be asking, well, who else has done this, Curtis? Well, in 2018, you may remember this, there was a young rapper at the time named Lil Xan who was under fire for calling Tupac's music boring. We'll elaborate that in a video that I have here from my guy, the company man, Justin. In 2019, Kodak Black went on to say that Tupac and Biggie, them niggas was just legends because they died. Matter of fact, there's other articles you can find where Kodak Black is saying that he's better than Tupac. You can even get some articles where XXXTentacion says that he's better than Tupac. In 2021, Lil Yachty, a frequent collaborator, Drake, says he speaks on the backlash he received after calling Tupac and Biggie overrated and what he learned from it, because he got attacked crazy on the internet by varying groups of people. You know, it was interesting as I was kind of going through these responses and I was responding back to people. I'm gonna go to my profile. I got met with a lot of mixed responses to it, right? Some people just think that I'm just overly obsessed with this whole Drake and Kendrick thing, forgetting I'm a content creator and this is my job. I want to kind of draw your attention to some of these reactions because it helped me to kind of build the case of what I'm now talking to you guys about. Sleazy Reyes says, I remember walking through the hallway at school and seeing girls cry, holding the newspaper articles. We watched I Ain't Mad At You on the TV in class. Shit was sad as hell. Didn't seem real. There is somebody else who was in defense of Drake that says, man, he was like 10 when Pac died. Look, F him, but this is inconsequential to Drake's disrespect. I reminded him that I was 11. I don't think age is the only barrier to stop you from disrespecting a name. If anything, I think that's even more reason not to mention a name if you have no connection with it, right? You don't see rappers on here saying, I didn't cry when Jimi Hendrix died. Well, yeah, because you don't have a relationship with the era of Jimi Hendrix. It doesn't quite make sense to make that connection, but yet and still, it is somewhat of a clickbaity topic to mention Pac's name. I go on to say the problem wasn't age, it was detachment from the culture he's been pillaging. A little harsh. That's what I feel, though. Someone else said, honestly, you make no sense. Drake was 10 years old when Pac died. He probably grew up on Jay's music and was able to soak more of it in. I don't think people understand the conversation or the argument that I'm making. So this is where I had to reiterate some things that are in addition, because it's not just about the line. Rappers say a lot of crazy things that if you put them underneath a magnifying glass, we'd be here all day trying to decipher some things. But I told him, I said, the problem is not him choosing to be a fan of another artist. The problem is why use Tupac as the contrasting example. I said, at first, the line is simply a preference. He prefers Jay-Z. He's connected with Jay-Z emotionally over a Tupac. But then I think able to raise some interesting questions. We're able to raise some legitimate questions when we look at things like, after buying the deceased man, that being Tupac, his ring for $1 million at an auction, and then using his AI version voice without any of the estate giving him permission, I thought that this is all things that needed to be questioned. And right now we're having a lot of cultural conversations because of that back and forth. And you're seeing that there are people who are participants to some degree in this culture who really are just squatters. And I think that these conversations make them uncomfortable because they don't want to have to do the research. Someone else went on to say, yeah, the ring thing makes it odd, but to play devil's advocate, maybe he grew up and gained an appreciation for him. I said he appreciated him so much he mimicked him with the help of AI and without the permission of the estate, all to win internet troll points. Sounds about right.
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
Someone else says, is it really that deep? And I always find it interesting is all these dudes with animated profile pictures. Is it really that deep? I said, when it's the culture you love and when it's an artist that I've never got to meet Tupac, but I can genuinely say that the music and the messages that he put out there for the whole individual, I have love for Pac, man. And so I told him, I said, it's always that deep. Evict the squatters. That's what I'm on right now. Don't mind me, though. Someone else shared their experience when Pac died. They said, at the time, I didn't think Drake made the line to disrespect Pac, only to suggest that he was a kid that wasn't submerged in hip-hop culture, not being influenced by Pac like he was with Hov. However, his recent antics didn't help this bar to age well. That's all I'm saying. Man, shout out to Pac. That's one of my favorite clips of Pac. And I kept doubling, and I kept doubling. I think it's on the Thug Angel DVD.
I gotta have my own. I got to hustle for my own. And any man out there got to feel me. It ain't about milking off the next man. I'm finna come up on my own. I'm gonna get my own sack. I don't want to be nobody's worker all my life. I want my own motherfucking kilo. You understand me? So that's what I did. Ain't no one man gonna stay in one spot forever. That's a sucker. I'm a hustler. I'm gonna come up. So I took what little bit he gave me and doubled up and doubled up and doubled up, and I've been doubling since. And I'm gonna keep on doubling till these niggas kill me, and that's that.
Man, say what you want to say. He was always on fire in these interviews, and we have not seen anything close to that fire and that balance. Some people would say Triple X Tentacion, but I think they're worthy of being in their own categories. Someone else went in, of course, OVHoers are very, very sensitive right now, and they don't want you saying anything that pokes at their guy. Someone said, stop with the BS narratives and taking things out of context. You're upset because a 9-year-old didn't feel the same way you did? I said, and I was 11, so what? Also, let's not forget the line in Fear that sets this one up. Don't take this the wrong way, but So apparently he knew that he was going to say something that was going to ruffle some feathers. The line in itself is not the basis for my question. It is the precursor of a lot of questionable Tupac-related actions with this guy. Whatever do you mean? Forget the AI, which is hard to do. Forget the AI on TaylorMade. Forget buying why would you buy a ring for $1 million unless you were trying to play some weird proxy war with Kendrick? And why would you buy a ring for somebody that you had no influence on you, apparently? Not as much as a Jay-Z. Then I got to thinking about some things that you hear when Drake mentions Tupac. Have you ever seen this clip here on the Rap Radar podcast interview that he did some years ago? Check this out.
You really,
So you like celebrating the whole birthday? Just
yeah, that's what I do. I wake up in the morning, I start drinking espressos. I wake up in the morning, I start drinking espressos. I wake up, have like a, nice balanced meal, put on some great music. I don't know if you guys went to the toilet yet, but the toilet plays Pac.
I did pee and I heard Pac. I got scared.
Yeah, I know,
what was happening, man.
Yeah, it's just curating the space. But it's
I saw many clips from that interview, and I was more so interested in the whole back and forth between him and Pusha T. This is something that I did not even hear until someone posted this up here, and I saw a few people post it, but you don't find that kind of weird? You don't find that kind of weird in itself? And we're focusing right here on Drake only because it's the most recent person I feel that has disrespected or has at least been insensitive about the way that they represent the name, the estate of a Tupac. But using the man's music as a ringtone for when you're taking a piss, using the man's voice, a dead man's voice, for a diss song that's used to troll Kendrick Lamar, buying a dead man's ring just so you can show it off on Instagram. These are the questionable things that make me feel like my guy here, Anthony Fantano.
It's such a meme at this point, just to even say the man's name and be a rapper. Just leave Tupac the fuck alone.
That part.
Just leave him alone. He's gone. Let him rest in peace. Let his friends and family live out the rest of their lives without you shitting on the dude's legacy. But let's explore.
And in a very ironic twist of things, Questlove chimed in on his opinion of one of Tupac's most infamous moments in the Hit 'Em Up song. As people have been kind of ranking where these Kendrick and Drake songs rank in terms of diss songs or beef songs, folks have been compiling lists, and then individuals like the legendary drummer Questlove of The Roots is giving his points of view, and usually he gives a really, really insightful point of view on just his opinion of music and soul music. I've seen many documentaries where he gives a great POV on things. Very intelligent man. This was unfortunate to hear because, once again, I don't know why Tupac ends up being on the receiving end of shit like this.
I would respect Tupac's Hit 'Em Up.
Yes.
If his music tracking was better. This sounds to me like
hot takes. Here we go.
No, this sounds like it. Look, I've already gone on the internet and spoke, but Hit 'Em Up to me is disqualified not because of the overly
vitriol.
Yeah, the misogynist. Like, forget all that. It's like, dude, you're rhyming over like smooth jazz dinner music.
Dennis Edwards.
Like literally. Luther Vandross could sing over this.
Okay, wait, hold on.
I don't get it. I really don't get it. I really don't. like I get saying things for hot takes. Maybe he's had this take for many, many of years. But family, I really don't understand why he keeps being the receiving end. You know, once again, I would understand if these folks were specifically affected, and maybe they were in many walks of life, by the actions of a Tupac. But I just feel like they're using it to rewrite his contribution, even though you still see artists in interviews. You still see artists who in their music, their vulnerable music, the music that is inspired by the Brenda's Got a Baby, Keep Your Head Up, the music that is inspired by Shed So Many Tears. All of these different songs that are now always permanently in the DNA and the fabric of certain types of hip hop songs, how they continue to rewrite that. Hit 'Em Up is another one. When we talk about the most vitriol, some of the most impactful diss songs of all time, they talk about No Vaseline, and they do talk about Hit 'Em Up. But I just think it's really interesting, especially when you think for a second, okay, so he calls the sample something that Luther Vandross would have been singing on. Matter of fact, I think somebody did a remix as a meme, so maybe that's where some of that comes from. Just get money. The whole idea was that it was a play on a song popularized, on a certain sound popularized. That's why you hear Get Money. That's why I'm gonna throw it. You're hearing that because this is a direct response to, which, by the way, I don't know how a beat disqualifies a diss song. That's never heard that one before. Let them finish it off. Music producers, rappers, and singers, are you looking to get some constructive feedback on your newest music? Joining Critique My Beats is super easy. All you got to do is reserve a pass to critiquemybeats.com. Click on book a slot and choose if you want to get 1 beat review, 2 beat reviews on our live stream every Monday. Best beat and best song of the night is going to win a cash prize. Join us at critiquemybeats.com.
So wait,
hold on. This is Dennis Edwards,
wait,
right? Am I right?
Yeah,
This
yes.
is Dennis Edwards song.
Wait, I'm curious.
Don't look any further.
I'm curious because I know.
I don't know how old you are. I'm not even.
Well,
lying.
let's not reveal that now.
Okay, yeah.
But I assume that you might be
a couple of years,
4 to 5 to 6 years younger than me.
We'll see.
Right. No, but this is always a difference because people who are born in the latter part of the decade that I was born in. All right, I was born in the 70s. Newsflash.
All right. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, like their relationship with Tupac is different than my relationship.
Yes.
And so thus, when this came out, I was just like, they were like, yo, this hard as shit, man. Yo, he's killing it. And I was just like, dog, he's smooth, jazzed up Dennis Edwards. Like, it doesn't count.
Yeah, I don't know about that take. But you got to respect the legend. He has his point of view. He's obviously been a contributor to this culture for way further than I was even thought about, right? But it's just disappointing to continue to see. The man's not even here to defend himself or to speak on his behalf. And it seems like so many of the people that would be here, I feel like Treach is one that definitely still gets opportunities to speak on his behalf, are no longer here with us or have been pushed off to the side. And I really don't get it. Now, some of my initial theories, I guess, when I think about some of the disrespect is, could these younger artists, right? And Justin brilliantly breaks this all down. Could some of these artists feel a certain level of jealousy towards a Tupac? Jealousy for what? Well, every time you get another artist that is impactful on a social level, that is impactful on a musical level, that has aggression and vulnerability in their music, I'm sure that there are journalists, there are fans that are like, yo, you're the Tupac of our generation. And I imagine for a young artist, that could be a very overwhelming title to hold, especially because Tupac did all of the things that we have heard about, from the movies, from the awards, to the ridiculous prolific output of music. He did that all in under 25 years of life.
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
25 years of life. And we're still talking about him today. We're still talking about him, and he passed away in 1996, and we're still talking about him today. I was always told that people don't attack people they don't think are threats.
But I don't feel like that's my job, to humble myself to show you that I'm not a threat. I'm not a threat unless you're a threat to me.
And so I wonder how much that has to do with it. Is that, do they feel a certain level of intimidation? And so the way to fight that is to belittle his contributions, to belittle his legacy, to try to warp whatever vision that you have of Tupac before your eyes and whatever your older uncles and brothers told you about it. Maybe I can somehow warp this and we can hyper focus on things like him rapping over jazz beats for a diss song. Hyper focus on, well, he always said Hennessy and enemies in his song. Hyper focus on these things that really don't tell the full story of who Tupac was, and his impact that he still has here today worldwide. Justin breaks down a lot of this stuff in this clip, and I want to see him kind of bring all of this home.
Wild trend that's taking over hip-hop, and it falls along the generational lines, of course. Last week, Lil Xan, are you familiar with Lil Xan? We've talked about him.
He did that one song that everyone likes.
Did a segment on Revolt TV called Clout 9. Now, this is where they rate things on a clout scale. And on the clout scale, they asked Tupac, where's Tupac rank on a clout scale? He gave Tupac a 2 on the clout scale.
9 being the highest.
9 being the highest. And said that Pac is boring. Right.
Who does he like to listen to?
He listens to younger artists.
Which I don't necessarily have an issue with Lil Xan saying that a Tupac is boring, but once again, the question comes back to why are they continuously using Pac as the gauge? Now, some of this blame does shift over to the people who are interviewing a young rapper like a Lil Xan because they're asking him questions purposely to set him up. However, any situation you have a reaction that you can give that you can just be like, hey, you know what? I don't want to touch that. I don't really know about bro's music, but respect to him and his family. But they don't seem to take that road. Why? Because they get results for talking bad upon the legacy of Pac.
Right, and you know, the clip that came out that went viral, that was the piece that they highlighted from that interview. Waka Flocka came out after that, said Lil Xan is banned for dissing Tupac. But what we have now is a trend almost of young artists.
He wasn't the first one. There was a cat from Long Beach that actually could spit. That was like,
well, there's a few cats. I mean, O3 Greedo had a big paragraph about that recently. We had Lil Yachty.
So he can't name 5 Tupac songs.
Exactly. You have XX Tentacion. He did a whole rant online, said that he...
Mind you, this video is about 6 years ago, but 6 years now, we're still talking about the unnecessary disrespect towards Pac. You would think he's responding back to people and they're hashing up new beefs because of what he said. He's been gone. He's been gone for a very long time.
Better than Tupac.
So did Kodak Black, I see here.
Kodak Black. Joey Badass. He actually said he's better than Tupac as well, but from a technical, lyrical standpoint, he wasn't necessarily looking at, Pac's legacy and contribution.
Here's a tough thing to like. It's easy to fucking stand on the shoulders of giants and say how much better you are than them. It's like ball players and shit like that. Like you didn't think they'd do the crossover, and someone else did the crossover, and then you copied them.
Can I add also that you're here as a product of the doors that they opened up for your little ass?
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth.
Can I mention that? Am I being biased when I say that? This standing on the shoulder of giants is so spot on by Rude Jew, because a lot of these doors that have been knocked down, a lot of the opportunities that you have to have an audience that is ready to hear your vulnerable music, that wants to see an artist that is not perfect, but see an artist that is damaged. 50 Cent talks about this in his book, So Smarter. He talks about how hip-hop has a fascination. Hip-hop fans have a fascination with figures that are, in some rights, dysfunctional, that they're damaged, because you have a female fan base that wants to help him heal, wants to see him get through it, and you have a male fan base that sees a little bit of themselves inside of him. So this is a part of the fabric of even these artists, and they have no idea that that's why they are who they are today.
And moved it forward.
I mean, look, I definitely understand a generation gap. I do.
Yeah.
There's certain things that go a little far. Now, here's what O3 Greedo said. This is one of the most anticipated artists coming out of L.A. right now. He said Pac sucks. He called him a bitch-ass nigga, said, do they need a nigga who can really rap to tell you Tupac sucks? Any type of East Coast, West Coast beef, cats from the East Coast, he's delusional. Pac's a great actor. Part of his music shit was acting. But I go to court on Friday. I got a whole metal leg. I'm really from the projects. I really got my hood on my face. My first major project is called The Wolf of Grape Street, the gang I'm from. He didn't Lil Xan didn't say anything wrong. Pac was a bitch ass nigga.
Wow. And then fast forward, Joe Goat over here painting his nails. Yo Goat over here having Rage Beige sessions at the end of Heart Part 6. What is going on? What is going on? Because I'm not going to speak on that individual in particular, but it's crazy how some of the same folks who have these criticisms of Pac and, you know what I'm saying, his bravado or his street connection or whatever the case may be, they don't hold the same people up that are current in the same light. It's like the game evolved into something else and they just don't even see it the same way. But they judge current day parameters differently than they do for a Pac who lived in a whole different time. Who did, I mean, I don't want to highlight these things, but he did. Bro was wilding out. Like, Justin talks about this shit right now.
To be fair to Pac, let's see, he was locked up. He was in jail, shot up, born in a prison. Like, what? Shot twice?
What?
Like, what else do you need?
Exactly.
Like, what else do you need?
He got shot 5 times. He took it and laughed.
Yeah.
Then he got shot again.
And he got shot out with the cops. Then he had to shoot out with the cops.
Like, just on low level perception. I don't think there's anything bitch ass about that series of events.
Talk about it, Justin.
Now,
I mean, and you know what? Not to tailor the conversation off in a different direction, because this is not about just, it gets tricky because there's street politics that have to be broken down by people who are participants in that lifestyle that I think are much more worthy conversations than what I can give you here. But all I can say is this: they continue to move the goalposts for why they continue to pull down the legacy of Pac. Oh, it's because of this. Oh, he couldn't do this today. He couldn't do this today. But yet and still, all of y'all still talking about him. It's a lot of folks that passed away since 1996, but they're still talking about him. And I think as much as I look at this as a Pac fan and say, damn, why y'all coming at him? Another part of me feels empowered and says, why the hell would they not come for Pac? He was that impactful. On a spiritual level, he was that impactful. On a cultural level, he was that impactful. Pac had the kind of rap voice that you didn't have to know the language, but there's a reason why you have parts all over the world, including Africa, where folks are saying, I don't necessarily understand what he's saying, but I understand the most universal language amongst all the stuff in his music, which is the aggression, the emotion, the sad nature in some of these songs. Shed so many tears, man, pain. Like, all these songs have they emit that energy that you don't necessarily have to understand the words to appreciate. So I wonder how many of them would love to do that for their audience, but one, they don't have the ability to, or they don't think they do, or two, they're talking to such a emotionally detached generation that to do that, they have to do things that actually move other people's emotions, right? Which is talk shit about the people that we hold up in a high light. Talk shit about the people who are actually out here in the communities, that were actually trying to make as many changes as they could on a grassroots level. You know what's funny? When Kendrick said, I don't think the Bay gonna like you disrespecting Pac, nigga. He said, I think that Oakland stop gonna be your last stop. Drake canceled that Oakland stop for a reason.
Somebody gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
Sheesh.
What do you need to do? Like, what do you fucking need to do?
Did he need face tats?
Just fight a gorilla or some shit? Like, what do you, like?
Maybe Pac needed to have face tats would have changed everything.
Or because he wasn't gang affiliated or some shit like that?
Perhaps. I mean, but that's the thing. I mean, this is where I think it's interesting, right? Because I understand the generation gap. Again, I can understand saying, hey, you know, if I really go back and listen to old school rap or even some of the first rappers, you have to be able to think about them being great at that time because they don't sound that great now anymore just because of evolution. That's just how stuff happens.
Yes.
But really getting at attacking people's, you know,
do you think he's just
credit.
I mean, do you think he's just kind of doing that to get us to talk about him? You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of what's been working for rappers the last couple years, is just trolling.
That's the other side of it. Now, is it now that cool to just come out and just throw shots at Pac or throw shots at any legend?
It seems like it, Justin. It seems like it. Here's my final thoughts on this. I do hope that we can get to a time period. And I kind of hoped it was going to happen after the All Eyes on Me movie dropped. I thought that we would get a different perspective for those who are younger, who didn't understand his impact. You know, I don't think we'll ever get an opportunity for them to fully grasp it, even with all like the art installations and pop-ups that you see that are out here. Certain things you could only understand by living through them and experiencing them. But I will say this. What I noticed when Triple X Tentacion was murdered was that the reaction that I saw in those same kids who might have been talking shit about a Tupac, I started to notice a very familiar sadness in their voices, very familiar hopelessness that they seemed to put out there about what would this world be like without the person that they were looking up to, without the person that was providing music that was like the life force that drove them, right? There's a lot of people that feel like that about Pac as well. Still to this day, there are family members, right? When I see Mo Preem doing interviews and you see him walk around certain topics very carefully because you can tell as a family member, one, as his brother, that this is something that still touches him at his core. Just moments away because, of course, the memories of Pac are going to bring up memories of Afeni. So it's like, I really hope that collectively we can do what we can. I'm trying to do this with my platform to share these stories about Pac so that people understand, like, one, we understand, like, the jig is up. We see that people use the name for clicks and all of that good stuff. And that also the people that I, in my opinion, feel like are doing colonization of this culture, going in different regions, taking their resources and then paying them money in exchange for it, taking it and adding that sauce to their next Drake album. I think it's important that we hold up these actions because now it starts to get to a place where it's like, no, this is not just I'm disconnected because I was too young when you passed away. Now this is getting into a place where it seems like you're going on the offensive. Insane the way they treat the legends. Hopefully that gives a lot of these younger artists perspectives on how one day they may treat you if this mindset doesn't change. But those are my words. Those are my thoughts, DIYers. You let me know what you think. DIYers, if you enjoyed this content, make sure that you hit the like button and maybe even consider subscribing. Come on, man. Don't be greedy. Peace.